like I look a little spooky right now. Appropriate for the author I'm talking about today. Hi everyone! Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. If you haven't already figured out, boy, he must touch. He yearns to touch. If you haven't already figured out from this video, if you haven't already figured out from this video, I read my very first Stephen King. So basically, I'm just gonna take you through each individual chapter because it's a book with 5 chapters. I opted to go for The Gunslinger, partially because a friend of mine lent it to me, and also because I feel like it's not necessarily the stuff he's known for, which I thought was interesting. I didn't want to go all in and read like It, for instance, partially because it's like 2,000 pages long, but I was a little interested in his fantasy series, so I did go ahead and read The Gunslinger from the Dark Tower series, so very first Dark Tower book. And yeah, I just recorded myself as I was finishing chapters, as I was starting things, and yeah, that's all I really got for this intro, so enjoy Cameron Who's Yapping. Hi everyone, welcome to my bedroom in the evening. I had an idea very suddenly because a friend lent me a very specific book, but I've decided that I am gonna make a reading vlog about reading my very first Stephen King book. If you want to see me read, if you want to recommend an author to me to read my first book of theirs, you should definitely do that because there are actually a significant amount of very famous authors whose books I haven't read. So anyway, all that to say, I was lent The Gunslinger by Stephen King. I know it's the start of a long series, and that's what I got. I also know that this series is more of a fantasy series as opposed to his most famous horror works. So yeah, that is what I know about this book. I just kind of wanted to take you guys with me and let you know kind of my thoughts as I'm reading the book, because I don't really do that very often. I just kind of will update at the end of the day for my reading vlogs, but I think it depends on how many chapters are in this book. Okay, there's 5 parts in this book. So what I think I'm gonna do is I am gonna update after every part. It is a very short read. I think I'm gonna get it finished very quickly. I didn't know Stephen King wrote books this short because I know it is like 1,000 pages. So yeah, it's only looking like this book. It's 231 pages. So I don't know if I'll begin tonight. I might begin at work tomorrow. But I did want to tell you just that I am reading my very first Stephen King. So if I read this and I enjoy this, please recommend me your favorite Stephen King book. And also, if you enjoy this video, I'm giving you guys all of the finishing thoughts before I've even started. But if you enjoyed this video and you think there's an author that I should read, comment it down below. I will let you know if I read the author or not, of course. But if I haven't, also just go ahead and comment your favorite book by them or whichever book you recommend I read. I will do this for good and bad authors, by the way. So you don't have to recommend me your favorite author. You could recommend me an author you like to hate read. But yeah, I'm very excited. I love Westerns. So if this is like a Western fantasy kind of situation, I think that would be rad. It says it's seven books, so if I like this, I will probably move on to the next things. I know of the Dark Tower, I know it's a famous fantasy series, but I don't know anything about it otherwise, so I am excited to pick it up, and I will update you all when I finish part 1. Hello! Okay, so it is the following day. I did get around to reading chapter 1, part 1, of The Gunslinger. I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting world. It's implied that this is a world that's post cars, but there's still a lot of modern day religion. And the main character, Roland, I think is his name. There were a lot of names all at once, and then they mostly referred to him as the Gunslinger. But I think his name is Roland. Roland is the last gunslinger on Earth, which I thought was very interesting. But basically chapter 1 is a story about him where it's this town, the leader of the church in this town convinced everyone that he was the devil, and he kind of had to, also spoiler alert, I don't know if I've said that so far in the video, but spoiler alert. But yeah, he ended up having to kill everyone in self-defense. So that's kind of what we're set up with in the first story. But I do think the world is pretty interesting. I am interested to see what happens next. Basically his goal is that he's trying to chase the man in black, I think is what is who he's trying to chase. But he's trying to chase this person, and that's the guy who convinced the church leader of this small town, like, oh, this guy's the devil, when it's implied that the man in black is the devil, because he brought a man back to life. I don't know. It's interesting. It's a interesting world building. I read the foreword also, where Stephen King kind of talks about, like, he wanted to write a story like The Lord of the Rings, and the good, the bad, and the ugly combined. And that's coming across. He's very descriptive in his writing. He doesn't necessarily hold back anything, which I think is interesting. It might really annoy me by the end of the book, but for the first, 70 pages of it, I think it's very interesting. So, I don't think I'm going to read part 2 tonight. I do think I'm going to probably read it tomorrow, but of course, as always, you will get a review from me after I read it. Oh my goodness. It's towards my bedtime, can you tell? After I read it tomorrow. So, you will see an update from me then. Okay, hi, good afternoon. It is Friday afternoon. I was dumb, didn't read anything yesterday, and now it's biting me in the butt because I'm trying to finish this entire book tonight so I can start editing the video tomorrow so I can put it out on Sunday. I love procrastination. I love having ADHD. But yeah, we just finished part 2, which was the way station. He meets essentially his squire is the best description I think I have for it. His name is Jake. He's a cutie pie. And then we get to learn a little bit more about Roland, which I thought was interesting. I don't think this part was as good as the first part, but it is nice because this is only about 230 pages. So each section is very segmented. I can read 70 pages in however many minutes, and I am not struggling to keep up with it by any means. I don't know. I did just finish part 2. I don't know if this is the book for me. The world building in part 1 was really interesting. Part 2 didn't give me anything. So I will read the next 3 parts probably and have more formed thoughts, but that's what I'm thinking right now. Anyway, finished part 2. I'll see you when I finish part 3. Okay, you all are gonna laugh at me because I literally just updated you guys 10 minutes ago. But apparently the third part was very, very short. I like the relationship between Roland and Jake. I think that's really interesting. And I enjoy the actual plot of the book. I think it's cool that he's hunting down the man in black. Still don't know a whole lot about him, but this is a 9-book series, so I don't imagine I am gonna know a lot about him anyway. So, we're fine. But they're making a journey, and the man in black basically was just like, hey, only one of you can meet me at the Dark Tower. And Jake was like, you're definitely gonna kill me, right? And Roland was like, no, I would never. So Jake's definitely gonna die before the end of the book. But yeah, that's what's going on. I don't know if that part changed my mind or anything, but I am a little bit more invested in the plot. Maybe part 2 was just boring. Who knows? But anyway, I imagine I will be back in half an hour to give you an update on the 4th out of 5 parts. So, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so I did get caught up in a little bit of work, which is okay, but it's been about an hour. I went ahead and finished part 4. Spoiler alert, as if this whole video isn't spoilers. Jake did die, which I can't necessarily say I'm surprised by because I think a lot of things were pointing to it, but it is interesting because I feel like, I don't know what it is, but dad media is very in right now. Thank you, Pedro Pascal. But I'm talking The Last of Us and The Mandalorian and stuff like that, where some baddie anti-hero type will take in a child and then be like, oh, you're my number 1 priority. I will do anything to protect you. It's interesting to see that not be the case
when I think it's been like ingrained in me to think that's going to be the case. But Roland is so focused on his goal of getting the Man in Black that, I mean, the Man in Black straight up is like, hey, only one person's gonna meet me at the Dark Tower. It's gonna be you, or it's gonna be the kid. And so when Jake is about to die, Roland just like leaves him. He just lets him die, and it's not crazy, but it is interesting. It's something that I haven't necessarily seen play out that way before, which I like. One thing about Stephen King I don't think anyone can complain about is his plots are very, very interesting. So yeah, I am on page 209, I think, out of 232, maybe? I'll let you know after I finish it. So I only have about 30 pages left. We're in the final part, so the kind of final, maybe final showdown of the gunslinger and the Man in Black. So I don't know, like I said, there's like 7 other books in this series. 6? Let me see real quick. It doesn't say, this copy has a bunch of pictures of Stephen King on the back, and I'm always like, ugh, what the heck are you doing here? Okay, it doesn't say. Super helpful. It doesn't say. Okay. It is 6 others. There are 6 other books in this series. So maybe it's not resolved. Maybe we don't see the end of the Man in Black. The Man in Black might be the big bad of the whole series. But regardless, this is kind of like we're entering the final part, the resolution to part 1 of this story. After I finish it, I will let you know if I want to continue on with it. We will see. That's where I'm at right now. Is I'm kind of at like, we will see. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the last 30 pages, and then you'll see me in probably a few minutes. Okay, we are so back. I just finished, and honestly, that final section might make me want to read the rest of the series. I don't know. I am thinking the book overall is probably 3.5 to 4 stars. That's what I'm thinking. Which you might be looking at me being like, you want to read the next one and you only gave it 3.5 stars? Listen, the reason it's probably going to be closer to 4 stars is because I'm potentially interested in reading the next one. But the final showdown went very differently than like I thought it was going to. I mean, the book is called The Gunslinger. I thought it would be like a gunfight, blah, blah, blah. It did not go that way. And you find out that the Man in Black is actually a servant of Roland's true enemy that he actually needs to be focusing on. And the Man in Black is trying to be like, hey, renounce your quest to defeat us and go to the Dark Tower. And Roland goes, no. And the Man in Black, whose name is Walter, he calls him Walter. I don't know if that's like actually his name, but Walter is like, okay, now go to sleep, and puts him to sleep for 10 years. And when he wakes up, he sees the bones of Walter. He doesn't know if it's like a bit or something, like if the guy's actually dead or not. But yeah, so it was an interesting ending. It was an ending I definitely wasn't expecting. I don't know if I'll be in a hurry necessarily to read the next book. That's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. Is I think it's interesting, but it's not something like where I put the book down and I immediately am like, I have to pick up the next one. I have to go find it, blah, blah, blah. Because I honestly just have a lot of other stuff I want to read. But for a first Stephen King novel, I am impressed by this. There is one book of his that's name I cannot remember. There's a booktuber who is a big Stephen King nerd, and his name is Ian, and I'll put his thing right here. But he reads one that is, I gotta look. He reads one that is about a global pandemic. I know that. Hold on. I'm gonna Google it really quick. Under the Dome. Under the Dome is one I am very interested in and maybe reading. But I also know it's like 2,000 pages. So I don't know if I'll get to that in this year. It is currently the 13th. This will be published halfway through the month. Isn't that insane? I have not been on YouTube for a full year yet. I don't know. That's insane. That was a thought I had the other day. I'm sure I'll make a video about it. But yeah, I've heard that one is particularly good. I have also heard, let me see. Oh, 11/22/63. I've heard that is very good. So there's a lot of stuff that I might be interested in his thing. I don't know if I'm still leaning towards his like traditional horror books necessarily, simply because I don't know, there's some weird parts of that I don't love that he wrote Carrie. when he was a high school teacher, and I don't love that, like, there's a very X-rated scene with the children characters of it. So I don't know if I'm like all in, like totally, I'm such a big Stephen King fan, blah, blah, blah. But I definitely think I could be compelled to read more of his works. So if you guys have a favorite Stephen King work, please comment down below what it is. If you guys like just love one of his works, I want to read it. I'm genuinely interested in. If you also just liked me reading an author for the first time, recommend me authors that I might not have read before. I do think, it makes my head hurt even thinking about this, but I do think I want to try a well-known author that is not necessarily well-liked. I have an author in mind, but if there's a famous or infamous author that you don't know if I've read before, put it down in the comments, and I would love to do that. Anyway, I gave you all this information, and I'm still probably gonna film an intro and an outro, so here is outro cam.
Yeah, so I ended up deciding that I was gonna give it 4 stars because I am interested in reading the next book. And that's like a big indicator if I thought a book was like just good or neutral or whatever, is if I can be compelled to read a second book. I didn't think it was all that bad. So yeah, I enjoyed it pretty well. I particularly thought King's plots were very good. I don't know if his characters were necessarily outstanding. The only one I found myself getting attached to was Jake, which that's what they typically do with characters that they kill off, is they get you attached to them. I don't know if his character work is necessarily my favorite thing, but his plot is very good and his description is very good. And I also thought the Dark Tower world building was very, very interesting. I liked the combined elements of like modern day Christianity and like a more Western or fantasy setting. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, and I'm interested to read a little bit more. So I would say that this is a successful kind of venture out into finding new authors. So I was glad to do that. And as I previously kind of mentioned in other clips, if you guys have any authors that are famous or infamous that you want me to give a try to, please comment those down below. I would love to kind of start this series essentially of videos where I just read pretty famous authors that I haven't read before. Yeah, so I've already talked a lot about commenting. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you have enjoyed several of my videos at this point, you might want to subscribe to the channel. That might be cool. Also, we just hit 1,800 subscribers, and that's a very, very cool thing. So thank you guys for that. Welcome to all of you who are new, who might not have seen one of my longer length videos. So glad to have you. I post long videos every Sunday, and I also post shorts multiple times a week. So as a lot of you have discovered me through the shorts, so I'm sure a lot of you know that. So thank you all so much for watching. What should I recommend for you guys to do today? Finish up your Christmas shopping, because Christmas is only a short amount of time away. That's insane. I also talked about this in the video, but like insane that I've almost done a year of posting on YouTube. This is very cool. I got flowers. Not for myself, this is for something else, but my cat won't stop touching them. You can see his little ear. Get off! Leave me alone. Yeah, so finish your Christmas shopping. Go take a little winter hike if you're in a cold area, and if you're not in a cold area, go take a hike because it's probably nice outside. And then finally, go visit and support your local library. I will see you all later. Goodbye!